Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by Good Marketing and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
So there's a new development project planned at the intersection of Holmes and Pleasant Grove in Southwest Lansing. This project is unique as it provides creative investment opportunity for citizens. Here to share the vision and the strategy for the Holmes and Pleasant Grove project are members of the Lansing Growth Fund, local developer Mr. Brent Forsberg, and the founder and CEO of the National Coalition for Community Capital, Mr. Chris Miller. Welcome, Brent and Chris.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the development project itself before we dig into this investment opportunity. Just kind of share the location, how it plays in maybe a larger footprinted region, and the significance historically for this parcel of land.
Absolutely. This is really exciting. Southwest Lansing has been a community that has really come together to say, we want to make sure that we have the best quality of life for the people that live here. So in 2016, they launched the Southwest Action Plan. And since then, they've built a town square. It's kind of across the street. We're at the old Pleasant Grove school site, which is the northeast corner of the intersection. So on the southwest corner is where the town square was built. They've upgraded Beacon Park. They've done a lot for growing the small and local businesses and really kind of building the connections back into the community that it didn't have like traditional neighborhoods would have. This was built in the 1950s. So it was very car-centric, kind of spread out. So they've really been working over this last decade to say, we want to have spaces where people can come together. And that's where this project's really exciting because it's just the next iteration of that, where we're putting in for the first phase, it's going to have a mixed-use building that is, it has commercial. We're really excited. LAFQ and their foundation has stepped up and are going to be the anchor commercial tenant.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and bringing in a lot of financial services and education programs along with all the great things that they're doing. And we're going to have 30 residential units as part of the first phase as well to really start building in what a traditional neighborhood center looks like, where it's going to be up against the road. We're going to have the wider sidewalks. But it's more than just that because we're also putting in a plaza. It's going to have a memorial to Malcolm X, who went to school on this site. So, and then also celebrating the values of Southwest Lansing. You're looking at the all of the great things they have going and really tell that story, because that's a key piece of what this is telling the story of where South Lansing has been through its history and then where it's going for the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Makes a lot of sense. And in my research for the show, it seems like this is going to be kind of the first in Maine, right? You're trying to make this a community center, but there's a significance to the larger map, right? I mean, there are some boundaries. I don't know if those are formal boundaries or something that you kind of consider this district or the Southwest Action Plan.
Action Plan, yeah.
Got
the Southwest Action Group that put the plan together, known as SWAG, they've kind of defined Southwest Lansing. It goes up to the river, kind of borders around the east and north, and it goes over to MLK and down to near Miller Road.
Okay.
And that's where the plan is. And this area, it was very intentionally picked because it has all of the infrastructure to truly be one of those neighborhood centers. We get to the corridors like MLK, you're going to see bigger projects as this area continues to grow. And you look at the Lansing master plan, you can see that this was kind of set as a neighborhood center. So this allows for that more walkability, that smaller scale, people coming together and can really show how we can continue to build a walkable 5 or 10 minute neighborhood where people can have their services and be around and have that walkability in an area.
So developers sometimes get a bad rap of just saying, what can I build where and make some money out of it? But it sounds like there's a more intentionality and, community input and let's build what they really need, not just what'll make a buck. You talk about LAFQ and not only are they going to be a financial institution like they normally are, as they, obviously are, but more of the educational stuff. There are components that seem to really be this side of the town kind of needs additional services or support. And why was that important to you to consider?
It's as we see our communities grow, it's so important that we build those local connections back. We kind of got away from that post-World War II as we centralized our banking, we saw globalization with the supply chain. And, we really disconnected from our communities. We're so busy all the time. And I think that's one thing when we look back to the COVID area, people realize, look, we want to get together. We want to have that connection with the people closest to us. And as we look at all the volatility in the national economy, it's really more important than ever that we get back to local, because at the end of the day, the interactions that we have, so like us being here together, and when we're in our community, it's the same thing, right? Nothing happens unless people come together and do stuff. So by putting the infrastructure in place, we allow that to continue to seed and grow. And this is going to be the embodiment of that. And it's been years of community input of what does the community want on that corner? What do they want in their neighborhood? So that's what's really exciting about this. And one of the things that came up is the importance of having a say in the developments. And this is where we're really excited that Chris's organization came on board to help us, because not only is it the potential, or not just the say, but also the potential to invest and be a part and ownership in how your community grows. And that's something that's very unique to this project in the Lansing area. I know there's a few around the country that have been doing it, and but here, we're taking it, we're bringing it to Lansing, and it's exciting because this will allow for people to invest and be part of the communities that they live in.
Right. And as we spin over to Chris and we talk about money and capital stacks and investment, I'd like to give a nod to one of our friends, the Wagoner Financial Group. Whether you're just starting out, planning for retirement, or anywhere in between, Wagoner is here to help you make smart financial decisions. They offer comprehensive, customized planning, from investment strategies and tax solutions to insurance, accounting, and estate planning. Wagoner is dedicated to supporting you, your family, your business, and future. Using their unique team approach, their team members' specializations ensure that you have someone who will always be ready to answer your questions and to be ready to help. Schedule a consultation by visiting wagoner-financial.com or give them a call at 517-853-3367. So, Chris, talking about the National Coalition for Community Capital, what is it, how was it founded, and what's the mission?
Love to. And again, thanks for the opportunity, Chris, to be here with you and Brent today. It's fun watching Brent do this podcast because he's using his hands a lot, which they're not going to see, but I just wanted to convey that.
There is a video component, okay, so depending on their platform, but yes.
So the National Coalition for Community Capital is a 501c3, so we're a nonprofit organization. We were founded in the 2016-2017 period by a really diverse group of folks from across the country working in different sectors and different geographies, and really united with this idea of just what we're here talking about today, this idea of community investing. So the law changed on a federal level in 2012 when a piece of legislation called the Jobs Act was passed. And basically what the Jobs Act made legal was investment crowdfunding. So we've been doing donation and rewards crowdfunding through Kickstarter and Indiegogo, those kinds of platforms. But some folks had an idea how we could turn those donors into investors and help us build businesses really in our own communities. And I was very involved. I was an on-the-ground economic developer at that point in time, was involved in the passage of Michigan's investment crowdfunding law. So we passed a state-based exemption in 2013. And a group of us came together from about 2013 to 2015. We were bumping into each other at conferences and workshops. And it was a group that included securities attorneys, folks that were working in the entrepreneurial support system world, woman who built the first platform that was used. We could put a raise on the platform and regular folks could take a look at it, make a decision to invest. That was Milk Money in Vermont. We had a registered investment advisor who was part of that mix. So a really broad cross-section of folks that had passion around community. That's what really united us. And it's so great to hear Brent talk about that in this discussion today because it is about community. And effectively, we were seeing these new tools that really weren't being used on a community level. We saw some really great stuff happen in the investment crowdfunding space, a lot more equity. Folks were investing in business owners that looked like the rest of the community, and we were seeing really good resilience. So businesses that were supported by community investors were more successful. They were more resilient because they had a baked-in community support piece. So you had marketers and users of the products or the services that were actually investors in it. So it showed really good things, but we just weren't seeing an impact in communities. So we formed NC3 really to address that and to figure out how we could do that. And so we really focused on community investment funds. And unfortunately, the details are incredibly terrific. They're not terrific, but the legislation around this all comes from 1933 and 1940. And it is really unkind for most of us. We're referred to today as retail investors. It's about 85 to 90% of the population. But essentially, we've not ever been able to make direct investments in our own communities and businesses, in real estate, et cetera. That's been reserved for the most wealthy folks in the country. And that's what changed in this space. So doing funds was particularly challenging because the fund structures are all heavily tilted towards those who have resources. The opportunities are there. The real wealth building opportunities are there. And so it took some really creative work by one of our founding board members, who's a securities attorney and working with a firm on the West Coast that has been kind of leading this charge nationally, doing structures called direct public offerings, which are like everyone's heard of an IPO, but a direct public offering is another kind of offering where you can bring in regular folks, community investors into the mix. So we started piloting this diversified community investment fund in 2022, really because the people we were working with said, we want a fund. We want a pooled investment vehicle on a local basis that folks in the community can invest in, and then that fund will turn around and reinvest 100% of its revenues back into the community. So the idea is that we create these evergreen funds. So we have been working since 2022. We piloted our first fund, and it was launched in Rhode Island last year. It looks like this place in Lansing is going to be the second fund to launch. So we're really excited about that. But we're working with about 30 communities across the country who are in the pipeline, some that are getting close, like the Lansing project here. We're really excited. I'm personally really excited. So I'm from Michigan, and we've been able to do some pretty interesting things in Michigan just because we have relationships in the state. But this project is special and unique. Working directly with a developer, we've been talking with developers about how important it is to get community investment into their capital stacks.
Yep.
And they all love the idea, but no one has taken the step forward. And it's like working with local units of government. They love really great ideas, and the first question is, who else has done it? So in this case, we're going to have an answer to both of those questions because Ingham County has been a huge support in this and is funding the work that we're doing at NC3, the legal work that's being done to put this together. And so want to give a nod to Alan Fox and to the Lenawee County, that's in my head, the Ingham County Land Bank.
Okay, yep.
That's been really great players in this space. And Brent is the first developer who's actually said, help us do this. And so we're helping them do that right now.
I got to tell you, that doesn't surprise me even a little bit.
No.
If you want the tip of the spear, this is a guy who's going to say, let's hold hands and jump and we'll figure it out, build the airplane while we're flying it.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of great information, but from a practical sense, well, first of all, I hear developers talking about it. I love to develop, but right now is just a horrible time. Interest rates are high.
Yep.
Everything that I need to buy for the construction process is elevated in price, and sometimes tariffs have something to do with it. But even before that, it was material costs. You have labor shortages and trade shortages. But it sounds like, if I'm weeding through your commentary there, that this is something that most capital stacks wouldn't include. It's kind of that ground floor, grassroots. Everyone throws in a metaphoric couple of bucks, and if you pull it all together, that becomes maybe an equalizer that allows this project to get off the ground. Is that somewhat fair? And can you maybe spend a little bit of time talking about what can listeners extrapolate from Chris's explanation of what he does and what exactly from practical matter is going on here, and how can they get involved?
Yeah. So the capital stack on this one, what's making the project work is, as Chris brought up, with the county and the land bank being able to use some of the previous grant fundings that were available that were allocated towards this project to work, and LEDC as well, bringing in the RAP 2.0 with the city administration, which is filling that gap, which makes the project have a potentially moderate return, so it'll have a return for investors. But it's using that little bit of public money to test this. So that's helping overcome that a lot of the other issues being faced. And the project itself is going to work at addressing that too. We're working with groups like the Michigan Laborers Union to have a workforce component. We piloted that with the land bank on a single-family home at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025. So we're going to expand that program too. So it's, the project will have the investment return piece, which is really exciting, and opening it up and using this as a pilot for allowing for that community investment piece that can become a part of something that is the capital stacks moving forward for other developers. So that's really exciting. And then also addressing workforce and creating more opportunities. When we talk about affordability in housing, there's a couple ways to approach it, right? Keeping the cost as low as we can, which is tough because there's only so much that we can do with the cost of materials and labors and things to build.
Yep.
But it's also helping people have more opportunity in the community to have a more career-oriented income level that allows for that affordability. So we're looking at it from all angles as we're putting these pieces together. And it's a huge coalition. If you go to lansinggrowthfund.com, I'd be remiss to try to name everybody that's on there, but we have different foundations like CityCraft, the Invest Health national organization, and our local Invest Health team has been part of it, which is connected through SWAG as well. That's done a lot of great work in Southwest Lansing. So what we're doing is taking all of these pieces and building that story on the site to say, hey, all of this has come together over the last 10, 12 years, and now we're taking it to that next step and allowing that growth to continue.
Okay. But to be clear, though, can a listener here chip in money? And that's what we're talking about here, right? The Lansing Growth Fund. So if I'm sitting here listening to this and saying, I'm bullish on this, I love Southwest Lansing, or I'm just a savvy investor, but let's just say I'm a person who lives in the district that you're going to go redevelop, and they're like, you know what? I've got $1,000 or I've got, whatever. There is a mechanism, like that's kind of the punchline, right? Is that they can put money in and that all those monies can kind of combine and be investments into this project.
That's exactly right. And to speak a little bit more to your comment about sort of the gap there, and that is definitely one of the places that this kind of capital can go. So we refer to this as community capital. And in this case, that capital refers to financial capital, because we talk a lot of times about different types of capital that a community may have. But for us, it is all about financial capital. What the mechanism that we will set up as part of this process will enable anybody in the community, in the state, frankly, ultimately probably nationally, who's a fan of what's happening here. And we will see some of that. We'll see some support coming from outside the community because they believe in this work, because it is so community grounded and community led and community first. We talk about stakeholder primacy. For a long time we heard about shareholder primacy on the corporate level as the rationale for making the people, those handful of folks that invested in those companies, wealthy. But we talk about making communities wealthy and do community wealth building as part of this. Very difficult to do in a big real estate project, especially a real estate project that aims to do affordable housing or below market rate housing, especially right now in this environment. But one of the things that we love about this community capital is that it de-risks the capital for other investors, because it says the community feels so strongly about this, they're actually financially investing in it. So we're going to have a structure set up, and there'll be an opportunity for folks in the community, or again, across the country. I'm going to invest in it. I don't live in Southwest Lansing, but I'm going to put a couple $100 in. I'm making that commitment right now. So
wow, right, we got him on.
There we go. That's right. It's recorded. But that's what we're looking for. We really want the people who are the true stakeholders of the project, who live around it, whose lives are going to be impacted by it, to have an opportunity to be investors in the project, and there will be. The project will ultimately identify what that investment looks like, what the returns look like, et cetera. But it will be a pretty straightforward process. They'll be able to go on a site. They'll be able to look at the whole offering, the explanation. Brent's bio will be on there. Other folks will be identified. It'll talk about the project, and they will be able to make a pretty small investment in this. One of the things, we like the bar to be really low because we want as many people in the community to invest as possible. So it may be a $50 or $100 investment in that. And if we get 1,000 people that are doing that, that is going to make us very, very excited, and is going to send a really powerful signal to the rest of the capital stack and all the people here that this is how strongly we feel about this. We want to invest in our own communities and see that capital recirculate within our own communities.
Makes a ton of sense. And I want to give a nod to another sponsor of ours who I think is a part of this project we're discussing here today, the folks at Triterra. Triterra is a leading environmental consulting firm headquartered in Lansing, Michigan, with staff around the state to serve your brownfield development, environmental consulting, and natural resource management needs. Since 2008, Triterra has been successfully advising a wide range of organizations to implement solutions to complex environmental challenges. If you're a business, a developer, a property owner, a lending institution, attorney, or governmental entity looking for a solution and you want prompt and timely service, do not hesitate to contact my friends at Triterra. Led by CEO and visionary Don McNabb, JP Buckingham, and Dave Van Haren, and supported by dozens of technical experts, you can't miss by calling Triterra at 517-702-0470 or visit them at triterra.us.
And they've been a key member of our team for doing this project.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They led the brownfield approval that we got through the city over the summer. And, they do a great job. We're really excited to have them. Awesome. You'll see their logo on the website.
Perfect. No, that's great. That's great to hear. And so I really applaud, Chris, your comment about, we'd rather have 1,000 people give $50, than have a benefactor kind of. So, I mean, obviously you'd love to have both.
Yes, exactly.
But the message that it sends, like you said, it feels like a stabilizing force. Is there a goal or a target or a percentage of the overall cost of the project that you're targeting, or is that you're just going to throw it out there and try to get as much as you can and see where it goes, since it's such a pilot project?
So the project right now, we're still going through finishing up the costing. We're in appraisal with the bank right now to figure out what the loan sizing is going to be. But we're looking at right around a $2 million investment need. So it's going to take both the community side with the smaller investors and looking at getting a couple larger investors in too to help make sure that this project comes to fruition. And we're excited, but as Chris stated, having people investing in the community is going to send a strong message to everybody. And it's something that we've had a lot of great feedback on our initial meetings that people are excited about this and being a part and having a voice in how their community grows. From the long-term stability too, from an investor standpoint, having a project like this, it's going to be harder for that project to sell and trade, which means that the project will be locally controlled for a long period of time. And, when our money gets disconnected from the communities that it's in, it's easier for people to look at a bottom line and say, well, maybe we should look at not putting as much into the maintenance and things. And we see when properties trade out of an area where the ownership is split, that generally they're not kept up as well. And having people that are using the project every day, visiting the bank, visiting the other shops that will be there, living there.
Right.
You have that emotional connection. You're more tied to your community. So it works too with grounding people to the area, because if you're invested in your community, you're more likely going to stay there, which means that we get more neighborhood stability. So it has this huge ripple effect that comes out of it too. And it's not different than how we built communities beginning of the 20th century.
Right.
I've used this analogy a few times. You've seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life, where he's standing there and saying, well, your money's in his tractor, your money's in this barn.
Right.
This is how we built our communities. And as we centralized our finance system over time, we kind of had that disconnect. So this is just taking an old model and rebooting it under the new laws that make it fair and safe for people to be a part of it.
That's fantastic. And I can see, like you talk about, like the public art or the bus shelter, has that aesthetic, or, it's those, the icing on the cake and the devil in the details that you get with locally ownership and locally owned, investment, as opposed to an out-of-stater just kind of throwing something together and, maybe it'll function, but doesn't have the aesthetics or maybe some of those extra accommodations.
It makes it unique, and it creates that experience. We've all been to places, where we sit there and maybe we don't understand why, but it just gives us that energy, that feeling that, wow, it just feels good to be here. And those are always those local shops. Right. Those places, those unique cafes, the parks that have that art that's the expression of the local artist that's telling the story of the communities.
Right.
And as we continue to build, we're seeing more of that. Lansing's been great with that. Right. When you go around town, you see the murals, you see the art, you see Scrap Fest. So it's just building on that local uniqueness. And in Southwest Lansing, they've got a lot going on. I think there's 78 different languages spoken in Southwest Lansing, and the different festivals and the things that all the community events going on. It is a very connected community. So having the spot, and they've been building it like so for the last 10 years. And we're not doing something new. We're building on the work that's been there with what they've done with Beacon Park and the town square and the tree lightings and everything. It's just continuing to add to create that better experience.
Makes a ton of sense. As we start buttoning up the show, let me ask you, so what's the status? We're recording this in, what is it, September of 2025. What is the trajectory of groundbreaking to ribbon cutting?
So we're finishing up through the approval process right now. And then we'll be starting the equity raise soon. And when we have the commitments in place, we should be ready to go as early as late fall to midwinter is our goal. So we want to see this come out of the ground and be ready for people to live there and for LAFQ to be open in the spring of 27 is our goal.
Fantastic. And how can people learn more about this?
Yeah, so our website is lansinggrowthfund.com. And if you head there, there's a Get Updates button. And we encourage people to please go. Right now what we're looking for, if you've got groups that we can come and talk to about this, we'd love to. We're doing 2 to 3 presentations a week right now. But getting involved, telling people about it, and getting the word out, getting on the mailing list is the most important piece right now.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me. Anything I missed?
I think you did a perfect job.
Wonderful. Wow. How about that?
I'm hoping to come back.
Greasing the wheels.
We really appreciate the opportunity. We think this is fundamentally important. Our goal at NC3 is to build a fund like this in every community in the country. We really, Brett talked eloquently about the separation of capital. It's a significant issue. So many businesses that come into our communities right now are based elsewhere, and they use an extractive capital model. You put the minimum amount in and take the maximum amount out. And when we have so many businesses that operate that way, that means it's hurting all of our communities. So we really do need to get back to that place where we were building communities ourselves, for ourselves, and we retain and recirculate that capital. And this is a great way to do it. And super excited to do this here in Lansing, our capital, and appreciate the support that we've received from the City Commission or City Council and the Mayor's office and a lot of other folks who are excited about this. And we're excited about what it's going to do nationally because there are people all over the country that are watching this project right now.
Fantastic.
And we're going to be really excited to tell them how great it's been.
And as our friend John at CityCraft says, it's building the non-movable economy. It's that connection. And that's what this is. We're building an economy that's for Lansing and for all the communities that build these. So it's really exciting and really proud to be part of this team that's working on this.
Wonderful. Well, we've been speaking to local developer Brent Forsberg, a staple of this podcast, love him to death, and then the founder and CEO of the NC3, the National Coalition for Community Capital, Mr. Chris Miller, talking about the Lansing Growth Fund, lansinggrowthfund.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me here today.
Thank you.
And I'd love to give a final shout out to all my loyal sponsors. We've got Wagoner Financial, Good Marketing, Triterra Environmental, Keller Williams Advantage and Team, Michigan Rise, and Kirk Byron State Farm Agent, and the attorneys at Foster Swift, all fantastic people worth a call. And if you found this show as a one-off, I remind you to like and subscribe to Michigan Reimagined on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts. This is Chris Buck signing off for Michigan Reimagined.